EM field elaboration point 0, Penrose, McFadden, Tam, Hunt, at least 3 grounds why EM field is the only explanation for the phenomenon of consciousness. A. No other phenomenon can account for information integration into 2 perceived awarenesses that neurology observes, pinpoint and diffuse 1, Huber, Stanford Uni, McFadden, Cartesian Theatre B, in training neural areas into phase coherence, which is needed to form an idea or a notion, i.e. qualia within the conscious mind, Wolfsinger, Amari, Max Planck Institute. Given the fixed axon gray matter, tissue can only happen through the medium of the field, e.g. Huygens clocks. Ici, biological expenditure of 15% bodily energy, i.e. non-stop, 15 watt for ionic pumping, aka spiking, that is the generator of the EM field of the brain actually, has no other evolutionary explanation. The key point on how the EM field produces the consciousness, A, lowest common denominator of the conscious process, is, which consists of plethora of subjective features like feels, inklings, thoughts, acts of will, etc., is the aware perception, i.e. sensing of the qualia, solving as to how does neural activity within cerebrum produce subjective sensing of the EM processes, also known as qualia, as all we sense is derived indirectly over the EM impulses states that are led in by neural pathway to the central nervous system, solves the hard problem of the consciousness. Chalmers, 1996. Understanding a sensor that detects EM field states is B2 Duado, an electrical engineering problem. B. Spiking or unison firing of huge pathways of axons at the immense energy expenditure of the brain. 2 kilos of brain tissue use 20% of the whole body's energy reserves, is the underlying electrochemical process that produces the brain's EM field practically non-stop and is the NCC when in alpha to gamma ranges, 880 plus hertz. Voltage, EEG spiking, and the EM field are one and the same electrical phenomenon. The energy does not travel the axons, but follows the pointing vector, direct path, from emitter to the receiver. In the same way as the electrons move in copper wire a few millimeters per second, but the light bulb down the street lights at the speed of light, the axon firing is the causative effect for the EM field that does the work of energy dispatch. See, what travels along the pointing vector, mostly to the platform neurons in cortex, are photons, which are massless, but energy-carrying wave particles. Every EM field consists of photons, no matter if they are in the visible light frequency spectrum, or, like in brain's case, not. As we know from the double-slit experiments, photons travel after emitting as waves, and according to Feynman's electrodynamics, discharge at the appropriate place within their envelope of radiation, where the opposite vector is found. At this moment, the whole wavefront collapses. D. Phase coherent EM field spatial segments are, in other words, in synchrony, i.e. resonance. All the photons that are in coherence, phase frequency, build a singular EM field that behaves in 2 ways to neighboring neural centers, EM fields, spatially frequency neighboring wise, interference and superposition. A synchronous EM field consists of photons which are bosons and in resonance overlap as waves, forming a point of emitting which lays near the brain stem at thalamus, wherefrom also the glucose energy pumps facilitate as batteries for this process. Sharp axon voltage potential spikes when in unison, as in resonant sync coherent cases, when conscious awareness is at highest, McFadden, add up in superposing way so that the EM field strength in resonance can be quite high. What we measure is the EEG, which is dampened by liquor and tissue RC impedance. E. Synchronous repetitive spiking, which is unaccounted for in any classical consciousness explanations, serves as stroboscopic lightning, in a way. Out of billions and trillions of photons that are emitted and absorbed by the tissue, each and every one sends feedback to its point of origination that denotes, here in space-time, I am, from the point of their absorption. This is well explained in Prof. Kramer's transactional interpretation of quantum mechanics, TIQM. Integral of these feedbacks is the sensing of the EM situation at that instant, which comes reflected back to the central or emitting point of origin and is interpreted as a feel or qualia that denotes what is the EM situation of the light and periphery that my frequency reaches. For those that want to avoid quantum mechanical math and the square root from the negative of Dirac equation, it can be stated that the process is akin to weather radar that records the reflection of weather fronts after emitting a single streak of impulses. F. Integration into the timeless point of now, in which our awareness always resides, also points to the photons, EM field, in the process. Only the objects, phenomena that travel at the speed of light have no time dimension, Julius von Machanek, Dippling-Ing.